mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about season 5, episode 8 of HBO's Insecure, entitled Choices, okay? This episode, again, I really feel like, and I know I've said this like 8 million times during this season, I really feel like they are treating this like it's not the last season. Like they got time to just fuck around. And like, when you have, like, there's so much potential here, and they deal with some interesting topics and whatnot, but like they really are dragging shit out. And I've said this from like episode 2 or 3 that I feel like, okay, like they're really taking their time with moving this where it needs to go. And now we're in a place where there's only 2 episodes left, and they've got to find a way in approximately 60 minutes, give or take, to completely upend Issa's life in some way. And this could have been an episode that they used to move into that position. But instead, they just hammered home the shit we already know. Like, this whole episode was dedicated to Issa having to decide between multiple options. We already knew these things were the case. The only thing they inserted that was a surprise was Crenshaw apologizing and asking to work with her again. We didn't have that on the table. But you know, the whole this choices episode, the choices are pretty clear. The big obvious one was choosing between working with MBW and kind of being like a corporate person who makes a whole lot of money and has a big, nice, fancy house, but maybe is a little bit out of touch with her people, and that's not really what you got into this for. But you have a successful life. Or working with Crenshaw, where maybe you don't have, you still live in modest means in the same apartment, you ain't rich, nothing like that, but you're getting accolades from Tyra Banks, no less. You're getting accolades. One of my OG crushes is Tyra Banks, by the way. All right, I'm done. But not having that fancy life, but getting the accolades and also being known and recognized for helping out your people. And being, I don't want to say in the streets, but like being of the streets and like bringing up those who you know would not get an opportunity otherwise. So kind of like the financial path, or the virtuous path, I think would be the best way to put it. And that conflict was like kind of like the major thing from the episode. But then we also added in a kind of like a secondary choice conflict that Issa's kind of mulling over, which subconsciously, by the way, which again, we've all, like, the whole series pretty much, well, not the whole series, but ever since he's been introduced, have been wondering if she's going to actually be with Nate. And I don't know about you guys, but the whole time I'm wondering, how is this going to end up back at Lawrence? Because that's how ultimately I think where this show has to end is with Lawrence. And we spent this whole episode, for the most part, hammering home that those are her options. We already knew that. This was a waste of an episode, if we're being honest. Like, because we didn't need to see Issa mull over these things when this is the third from last episode of the final season. We spent the entirety of it with Issa mulling over 2 choices that we already knew were the 2 choices that she had on the table. And furthermore, she mulled over those choices through wildly long and extended dream sequences that got from, when you have sequences that you want to play for effect, it kind of goes like you have a period of oh, this is kind of funny, interesting, to okay, now this is going on too long, and then kind of back to now it's been going on so long it's interesting again. And you usually see it with humor, like they'll have a joke that it will go on for a long period like that. But when it's a dream sequence and there's uncertainty there, we don't know if it's a dream sequence or not. It never went back to that third level of this has been going on too long, but now I find it interesting again. It stopped at this has been going on too long. I now know it's a dream sequence, and now I'm ready to not be watching this anymore. I get the point. That's how both of those dream sequences went, to far beyond when I realized it was a dream sequence and I didn't need to see it anymore. And I think they were going for, it's gonna go on so long that it'll be funny, but that's not. It wasn't meant to be funny. Whereas that when that happens in comedy, it's meant to be funny. This is a situation that's, a character mulling over serious life choices, and I feel like they thought if we extend it really long, it's gonna get funny, and to me it got like, I get the point. Like, we could stop this now, and maybe not everybody else took it that way, but I just felt like losing large chunks of this episode to extended, unnecessarily long dream sequences that we didn't even need to see in the first place. And I think that they're funny at points. Like, anytime she's arguing with Mira Issa, I love that shit. Like, I think that shit is great. It's hilarious. I love her kind of like grappling with life decisions with herself, with this weird version of herself in the mirror. I love those sequences, but it's just these just went on too long, and we did not need them, if you ask me. I don't know. But I mean, if you're watching this, I guess you are asking me, right? So one thing I did like, well, I'm not gonna say one thing I did like, because like, even though I feel like a lot of those aspects of the dream sequences and the decision we already know about, even though we didn't need that and it was a waste of time, it was still interesting to watch. Like, it still had funny moments, it still had kind of interesting moments, whatever. So I don't want to say the one thing that I did like, because I did like aspects of those. I just felt like I felt like it was a bad decision on a whole for the show to have a whole episode where you lose almost all of the episode to hammering home information we already know. But what I did like was Molly's breakdown in her car after handling the will situation with her parents, because it's one, that's already something that's difficult to deal with, but then you got your parents who don't have shit and appear to not even give a shit. And then, side note, did anyone else find it weird how like back to normal her mom was? Like, we just spent like, I think, a good 2 episodes where it was like, is my mom even gonna live? And it's like, oh, mom just woke up, here she is, hey, say hi, she just woke up. To this episode where she's like completely back to normal. Like, did anyone find that weird? But anyway, parents don't have shit, they don't seem to care, and that's a lot for her to deal with. So that breakdown in the car, I thought was a good moment for her. And I also like, I don't say like, but I find it interesting in I almost kind of like it way, how perfect Torian is. Because like, Torian handles this whole situation perfectly. Like, he doesn't fight back when she says he doesn't want her, she wouldn't be good company. Like, I expect him to go, I don't care if you like, if you need me there, I'll be there. But he just says, okay, cool. And then he sends the delivery with I think it was like liquor and food or whatever. I don't remember what all it was, but that was a nice gesture. I'm like, and I put in my notes like, Torian is fucking perfect now. And the reason I find that interesting is because this isn't a situation where Torian's been a good guy the whole time and Molly's just been dumb about it and has been deciding she's gonna date other people. Torian has been a fucking asshole like every time we've seen him up until this season, because we only see him within that context of work, which is fine. And it's fair to think that like we only see asshole Torian because that's who he has to be when he's at work. But regardless of that fact, we have only seen Torian as an asshole up until this season, and now they're leaning really hard into this Torian nice guy thing, which, I mean, I find it interesting because I just think it's kind of, I don't borderline ridiculous to like have a character do a complete 180 of how we've seen them through 4 seasons, have them do a complete 180 in 1 season, and have us buy that this is the right guy for Molly. I'm accepting it, and I find it interesting that they're doing this. But like, if you're really being honest, that's really not a feasible character arc. Like, it could have been, but they did. I feel like they decided at the last minute, like, okay, we're wrapping this show up. Who we gonna put Molly with? Let's just do Torian and make him nice. Okay, cool. Like, it didn't sound like that. It in no way feels like that was his arc. Like, Torian starts off like an asshole. He kind of moves into being nice. Molly doesn't really give him time of day. Then she does, and they end up together, and it's nice. It's like, it just kind of feels like Molly was fucking up in her relationships and dating all the way up until like 2 episodes ago. So like, I'm expected to believe in these final, let's say, 4 episodes of 5 whole ass seasons. In the final 4 episodes, all of a sudden Molly's just gonna make the right decision of her dating. Like, I kind of wish I could have seen the transition. So it's weird that like this final season feels both rushed and dragged out. Like that you wouldn't think that that would really be possible. But the Molly shit with Torian is being rushed. Like I don't buy it at all. Like I accept it because they are showing me a Torian that Molly should date. So I accept it, but I don't buy it because it's rushed. Like they just flipped the switch, made Torian decent, and now Molly's gonna be with him. And then conversely, everything else has been kind of moving at a snail's pace. Like they should have been hauling ass toward a finale, and they should have already been kind of like building up, the possibility of Issa going back to Lawrence, and the possibility of Issa, needing to make these decisions between MBW and Crenshaw or anyone else, whatever the case may be. But like I said, we got this rush thing with Molly, but then we also got the whole rest of the episode hammering home shit we already know. So it's like, this season has had a lot of misses, and it's kind of sad for such a beloved show to be kind of like limping toward the finish line like this. But they do still have 2 more episodes to pull off something pretty remarkable. My expectations for it actually being remarkable are, I'd say, about 0 to 5%. I don't think it's gonna stink. I think it's gonna be sad that this show is essentially probably gonna just kind of like limp off into the sunset, and that we as fans of the show are gonna look at it kind of the way we look at Game of Thrones. Like, it was great all the way up until it wasn't, and they just decided that they were just gonna stumble across the finish line. And I think that's how we're probably going to end up here. But I will say, I did enjoy seeing Issa's brother again. We haven't seen him in a while. In the trailer for next week, it looks like we're going to see Chad again. And I've been complaining all season about how, not all season, but I've at least a couple of times about how underutilized Chad has been in this season. Like I said, I thought Mira Issa was hilarious. I like that teetily hee laugh that she did, which within the context of the scene, that laugh remained funny, even though we saw it in the trailers, but we saw it without context. So I thought that was a funny scene. And then, like I said, interesting cameo by Tyra Banks here. It was nice to see her. So that's all I got for this week. I will see you guys next week for episode 9, the penultimate episode of both this season and the series as a whole. And then we will wrap up in 2 weeks with the finale. So until then, peace.